The Paris Climate Agreement has been a game changer in the attempt to conserve the environment. Let's know what the Paris Agreement is and why it is so important for our future and climate. To know all the details, keep watching. Let's first talk about what is the Paris Agreement and how does it commence. Nearly all countries ratified the historic international agreement known as the Paris Agreement in 2015 to address climate change and its detrimental effects. The pact seeks to significantly cut global greenhouse gas emissions to keep the increase in global temperature this century to 2 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial levels, while also researching methods to keep the increase to 1.5 degrees. All major polluting nations have agreed to reduce their climate pollution and to make those commitments stronger over time as part of the accord. The accord establishes a framework for the transparent monitoring, reporting, and ratcheting up of countries' individual and collective climate action, and it offers rich nations a mechanism to help developing nations with their climate mitigation and adaptation efforts. Additionally, it seeks to assist and improve national efforts to mitigate the effects of climate change. When did the agreement come into action? At the COP21 Climate Conference in Paris in December 2015, the Paris Pact was established as the first ever universal, binding global climate change agreement. The close 190 parties to the Paris Agreement include the EU and its member states. The deal was legally adopted by the EU on October 5, 2016, allowing it to go into effect on November 4, 2016. At least 55 nations representing at least 55% of global emissions are required to deposit their ratification instruments for the agreement to go into effect. The Paris Agreement, which was negotiated over 2 weeks in Paris during the UNFCCC's 21st Conference of the Parties, marked a historic turning point for the world's response to climate change. World leaders reached an agreement that included commitments by 195 countries to fight climate change and adapt to its effects. Countries that were involved in Paris Agreement have been ratified by 197 countries since 2015, pretty much every country in the world, with war-torn Syria being the last signatory. Among them, 190 have formally approved their support. Iran, Turkey, and Iraq are the main emitters that have not formally ratified the accord. Let's now talk about the importance of the key elements of the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement serves as a link between current policies and the goal of achieving climate neutrality by the end of the century. 1. Government agreement on reduction. The need for global emissions to peak as soon as possible, acknowledging that this will take longer for developing countries, and to undertake rapid reductions thereafter by the best available science, to achieve a balanced global climate, with a long-term goal of keeping the increase in global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Countries have filed extensive national climate action plans to help achieve the agreement's goals. Although they are insufficient at this time to meet the stated temperature objectives, the agreement paves the door for additional action. 2. Transparency in a global inventory. Authorities concurred to report to each other and the public on how they are implementing climate action, to meet every 5 years to assess the group's progress toward the long-term goals and inform parties about updating and improving their nationally determined contributions. To track progress towards their obligations under the agreement, they must have a strong transparency and accountability system. 3. Adaptation. The government agreed to enhance the capacity of societies to deal with the effects of climate change, sustain and expand international support for developing nations' adaptation, losses, and harm. In the agreement, it acknowledges the necessity of collaborating and improving understanding, action, and support in various fields such as early warning systems, emergency preparedness, and risk insurance. It emphasizes the importance of preventing, minimizing, and addressing loss and damage related to the adverse effects of climate change. 4. Role of local governments and regions. In addressing climate change, the agreement recognizes the importance of non-party players, including cities, other subnational governments, civil society, the commercial sector, and others. The need of the hour is to support initiatives aimed at reducing emissions, enhancing resilience and reducing vulnerability to the negative consequences of climate change, and fostering regional and international collaboration. 5. Support. EU and other affluent nations will continue to support climate action to lower emissions and increase poor nations' capacity to withstand the effects of climate change. The voluntary provision of such support by other nations is encouraged. Developed nations seek to maintain their current joint objective to mobilize $100 billion annually by 2020 and maintain this level of funding through 2025. After this time, a new, more challenging target will be established. Conclusion. Rarely there is an agreement on a single issue among nearly all nations. But with the Paris Agreement, World leaders came to a consensus that human conduct is what is causing climate change, that it is a threat to the environment and to all of mankind, and that global action is required to stop it. It also established a precise structure under which all nations could make long-term pledges to reduce their emissions. If the government around the world are to stick to it, we might be able to see a positive effect on our environment. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Till next time.